All right, everyone. Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com. And after 2 nights of kind of debating whether or not we even wanted to do this, a couple tough losses for the Dodgers. They make you sweat it out last night. Well, tonight was the night that we've all been hoping for. An absolutely dominant performance, as Dusty says on Facebook. Back in it. Lindsay says, never had a doubt. Go Dodgers. The Dodgers smacked the Braves 15-3 is the final score after they give up a couple runs in the 9th inning, but an absolutely dominant performance. The Dodgers put up more runs in one inning than ever has been more runs than have ever been scored in one inning in Major League Baseball postseason history. They did it in the first inning and with just 2 outs. Absolutely dominant. Urías pitches well for the Dodgers. The bullpen kind of holds it down. And so a really exciting one. The headline, of course, the Dodgers cut the lead in the NLCS 2-1. Daniel, we've been here. It's been rough the last couple nights. Tonight felt pretty good.
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, 11 runs in the first inning, not bad. It was a non-stressful night. I'm going to give myself a little bit of credit here. Before the game, I felt like I wasn't doing my part up until this point. So I said, you know what? I'm going to put on my lucky Shaq jersey, Shaquille O'Neal, the first favorite athlete of my life when I was probably 3 years old. We share a birthday. My parents used to invite him to all my birthday parties. He never came, but still my first favorite athlete. So I said, you know what? I'm going to put on my lucky Shaq jersey. Maybe it'll bring us some luck. And 1 inning later, we scored 11 runs. So I guess now I got to wear this jersey every night.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, the first time the Dodgers ever won a postseason game in my life was Jose Lima, complete game. And I remember going to that game and thinking, well, I can't wash any of the clothes that I'm wearing. I have to keep everything the exact same. So I'm assuming the same goes for you. The Shaq jersey will not be washed and it will be put on right before first pitch tomorrow. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Luckily, it was a non-stressful game tonight, so I didn't really sweat much. So, yeah, we'll be good to go for tomorrow. Hopefully, it'll bring us luck once again.
There you go. Well, again, a big one for the Dodgers. They cruise. And the headline here is the offense. And we talked about this on last night's post-game show. Hopefully you were with us. Scott Newhouse wants you to know, by the way, he has Shaq over Kobe. Not that we're going to get into controversy here, but that's
we don't need to get into that.
But the Dodgers, they do their part. They came on at the end, the seventh and ninth inning last night. They scored 7 total runs. We were both optimistic. We said, hey, we like where this is headed. We like the way the offense starts to see the ball hit the bat, starts to see the ball land in grass or over the fence. And sure enough, in the first inning, I mean, right out the gates, Mookie Betts, close play at first base, is safe. And then from there, Corey Seager ropes a double, and the route was on. Will Smith ropes the ball right up the middle. Obviously, a number of home runs in the first inning, capped off with the grand slam from Max Muncy. And we've been saying there's a lot of guys that you've wanted to see get going. It's not so much just, hey, we need to score runs, but if you really want to make a deep run in the World Series, it was like, it's not just about winning these games, but you need to get bats going. Well, tonight was that night. Corey Seager stayed red hot. He had a home run, a double, a single, and 3 RBIs. He had a chance to hit for the cycle in the 4th inning. That tells you everything you need to know about Corey Seager's night. Cody Bellinger, 2 for 4 with 2 walks, a home run, 2 runs, 2 RBIs. Max Muncy, 2 for 4 with a grand slam and a double, as well as 2 walks. And then Jock Peterson, another guy that most people had kind of, myself included, written off. Terrible regular season. We knew there was some health stuff surrounding his family that was kind of uncertain. Thankfully, it doesn't seem to be a big deal. But you didn't really know what he was going to provide. And 4 for 6 tonight with 3 RBIs and a home run. There was a stat that somebody tweeted out that he basically broke the record in the StatCast era. He hit 4 balls over 104 miles an hour. It's the most that's ever been hit over 104 miles an hour in any postseason game in StatCast history. That's from Jake Terasaka. So absolutely fantastic night, top to bottom. Mookie Betts gets an early exit to rest up. Everybody other than Chris Taylor basically hit. And Taylor's not a guy I'm worried about because he's been crushing the ball anyways.
Yeah, it was a fun night. I guess Jocktober is officially upon us. I don't know what it is about that guy, but it just seems like no moment in the postseason is too big for him, which is good to see. He looked great tonight. But I'm gonna go back to last night when we were doing this show, when it was definitely a disappointing loss, but we took some positives away, particularly in the last couple innings when the Dodgers got the bats going, and we thought that momentum could carry over into today, and we're exactly right about
Yeah.
that. They picked up right where they left off. So I'm just going to give a thank you to Josh Tomlin, who is arguably the worst pitcher in baseball. He woke up a sleeping giant that is the Dodgers bats. And they just poured it on today. I mean, the game was over after literally the top of the first inning, which is pretty crazy to think about. So, yeah, I mean, it was good to see. Basically, everyone got going. Edwin Rios hasn't played in a while. He missed the last series with an injury, but he just comes up in the lineup for the first time and hits a homer to dead center in his first at bat. So
Yeah.
it was a fun night. Good to see the bats get going. And hopefully it carries into tomorrow.
And I see lots of questions in the chat. Again, if you're joining us on Facebook or Periscope or YouTube, wherever you're at, leave us comments, leave us questions, give us your headlines for tonight. We're going to get into tomorrow's game in a little bit. I think there's some lineup decisions that Dave Roberts has. We're obviously going to be talking about whether or not Clayton Kershaw is expected to go in that game. But before we move past tonight, I do want to give a mention and talk about Julio Urías. So Urías comes out, and the Dodgers knew they needed a big game from him. Obviously, before he takes the mound, he's already got 11 runs of support. He comes out, he walks Acuna, he walks Freddie Freeman. It's kind of like, okay, like, don't even give them hope. He gets out of the inning. After those first 2 walks, 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned, 5 strikeouts. So only 3 base runners allowed from that point forward. He throws 101 pitches. We can get to in a moment whether or not you like the decision to stick with Urías there, but I mean, this guy has been fantastic, and you have to give him a break for the first. I mean, he warms up like he's ready to pitch. The Dodgers score 11 runs. There's a pitching change. I mean, not what I think they said maybe 25 minutes the first inning. So not what the pitcher is used to. And so for him to walk a couple, that's understandable. He gets out of it. And from there, he's dominant other than from one mistake. So we have to like what we see from Urías because, again, if the Dodgers want to make a run into the World Series, this is a guy they're going to need.
Yeah, he was great again. Like you said, we're not going to fault him too much for the 2 walks. He just sat in the dugout for 40 minutes, so that's a tough spot to be in. But it was good to see he was able to get out of that. We talked a lot about his struggles in the first inning, so at first it was kind of like, oh no, here we go again. But he was able to settle down. He got some help from Cody, who made just another incredible catch to help him get out of that first inning. And then he just was cruising from there. He gave up the 1 home run, which means nothing in a blowout. It was good for him to get through 5. He threw 102 pitches, which is fine. But yeah, he's been great all postseason. That's 3 outings, a combined 13 innings, and only 1 earned run allowed.
Yeah.
So he's a guy who's, as the year has gone on, our trust in him has just continued to go up and up and up. And now it's hard to say he's not the team's best pitcher at the moment, given, Kershaw's back issues, Buehler's blister. It's hard not to say Julio's not the best guy right now. So yeah, hopefully he looked great. If you want to get into if they should have left him in that long, we can.
Just really quickly, what did you think on that? I mean, there was some conversation. The Dodgers are up so much so early that maybe Urías pitches 1 inning, maybe 2, and then you save him so that he's available. The flip side is if he only pitches 2, you got to find 7 innings from someone. And outside of Alex Wood, who pitched 40 pitches last night, it's not like the Dodgers just have useless arms, kind of like the Braves seem to have at their back of their lineup. So personally, I didn't have a problem with it. I felt like that was the plan. Get your innings. Basically going into tomorrow, you're only out Alex Wood, Adam Kolarek, Julio Urías, and Pedro Baez. Those are probably the only 4 guys unavailable. So Urías going 5 gets you to that spot. To me, easily the right decision.
Yeah, I was fine regardless of what they did because, it's either do you burn more bullpen arms or do you burn Julio? So I was fine either way. I still think, even though he threw 102 pitches, if this gets to a game 7 and it's an all hands on deck type of game, I still think he'd be able to give you an inning or 2, which is definitely a good thing. So I was fine either way. I was in the camp of maybe let him go 3 or 4. But 5's not a whole lot different from that. So I was fine with it. And it was good to see them get Kenley in there to get his confidence back up. And all the relievers, minus Kolarek in the 9th, who gave up a couple meaningless runs, they all look good. Alex Wood actually was throwing the hardest he's been
Yeah,
throwing all season. Pedro Baez arguably looked
it's
the best he's
fantastic.
looked all season. So yeah, I think that the Dodgers pitching staff is in a good spot going into tomorrow. Hopefully Kershaw can make that start, but I feel good about where the pitching staff is at as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, Jansen is fascinating, right? It had to be a little bit of an ego check for Jansen to be the first guy out of a bullpen in a 15-0 game, 15-1 game at the time. But he comes out, he pitches one clean inning. And again, it's like you said, the velocity was pretty good, 92. He was touching with his cutter. And I mean, that he hadn't pitched. Like, he was one of the only bullpen arms that hadn't pitched yet, so he could pitch tonight and still be available tomorrow. He looked good. I think you feel better about him. He probably feels better. Baez, even though he's now probably unavailable tomorrow, you feel way better about him. And you look at sort of how the bullpen shakes out, and Wood, Kolarek, Urias, and Baez, as I said, are the only guys unavailable. You've got Victor Gonzalez, Brusdar Graterol, Blake Trinan, all three of those guys have not pitched in 2 days. Jansen is available. Jake McGee's probably available if you want him. So the Dodgers have left themselves with all of their best arms still available. Joe Kelly, I mean, if you want to include, I know you're a Joe Kelly guy a little bit, so maybe you want to include him.
I don't know if I'd include him in that.
No.
In that game,
okay,
but,
good.
Yeah, we could throw him in there. Why not?
But so the Dodgers are in a good spot bullpen-wise, which I think is the key. I will make one joke because last night the big anti-Dave Roberts criticism was, I can't believe they put Baez in to face those guys and not Kolarek. Kolarek comes in last night, gives up a run. He comes back in tonight, gets batted around. Look, I'm not making any big pronouncements, but like, can we at least just acknowledge that it wasn't a crazy decision to put Pedro Baez in? Like, he was if he pitched like he did tonight, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Of course he didn't, but anyways, let's put tonight's game to rest just for the moment, set it aside, because I think lots of people want to talk about tomorrow. The big story for tomorrow, which is still sort of with a question mark at the end, is Clayton Kershaw. Ken Rosenthal reported the Dodgers are expecting Clayton Kershaw to pitch, but that is very subject to how he sleeps tonight and what he feels like when he wakes up tomorrow. Assuming Kershaw is good to go, how are you feeling about a weird amount of rest? We know he's a routine guy. Is there any concern about Kershaw given sort of the uncertainty around whether or not he's going to start?
I mean, the only concern is how healthy is he? Like, obviously you don't want to risk re-injury and then he's out for the rest of the postseason. Like, we still got the rest of this series and another series to go if they want to win it all. So that's the only concern. But at the end of the day, I trust Kershaw and the Dodgers training staff. If he's not ready to go, they're not going to force him. You can move Dustin May up and let him pitch tomorrow if you have to. I mean, he pitched he throw an inning in game 1, so ideally he pitches game 5. But if you had to move him up, you could probably get 5 innings out of him tomorrow. But I think if Kershaw takes the mound, that means he's healthy, and that means I have full trust in him. So I'm fine there. We talked last night about how the Braves struggle against left-handed pitching. We saw it with Julio tonight, and hopefully we see it again with Kershaw tomorrow.
Yeah, so that's on the pitching side. Again, they've got basically a full bullpen following Kershaw. So down 2-1, you have to feel good. On the other side is Bryce Wilson pitching for the Braves. This is a guy who had a 4.02 ERA this year, 5.91 for his career. That's not a lot of starts. It's a pretty small sample size. His last 2 starts, the only 2 starts he made this year were his last 2 appearances in the regular season. He actually was all right. 8 innings, 8 hits, 3 walks, 1 earned, 9 Ks. So not great, but basically a 1 and change ERA across 2 starts. This is another guy, though, that the Dodgers have got to hit and they've got to get to. You'd imagine it's a similar approach to today. A couple people have asked this in the chat. The Dodgers, after scoring 15 runs in the first 3 innings, they did struggle a little bit, 3 for 20 from innings 4 through 9. We talked about how big the momentum was there. Any issue there? I mean, for me, it's like they had the runs. This game was out of hand. There was no pressure. They weren't faltering. I mean, they had the bases loaded in the 8th and didn't score.
Yeah.
But any concern whatsoever on the Dodgers side struggling down the stretch?
No, absolutely zero concern for me in that regard. First of all, they pulled their top 3 hitters, like the top 3 guys in the lineup from the game. So Mookie, Seager, and Turner weren't even in there. They still got some guys on base, but in a 15-1 game, like, your mindset is just completely different. Like, there's no sense of urgency. You're just kind of in there going through the motions, just hoping you don't get hurt.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to fault them for that. I still like where they're at. I still think they were taking some good at-bats in the last few innings. So I'm not going to be there's nothing to be mad about on a
No.
game after a game that they scored 15 runs. Like, I think you're just nitpicking at that point and finding something to get mad at, which I'm just not going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made the point. There was no pressure. Like, the Dodgers are all going to forget that they went 3 for 20. You know, part of the reason these slumps exist is because when you struggle in game one and then you struggle halfway through game two, it's in your head. They're not going to remember what they did in the 6th or 7th inning because all they're thinking about is all the home runs they hit early. Now, I think one interesting thing I'd like to talk about is some lineup decisions. We've talked about all postseason. Dave Roberts has had a pretty standard 1 through 8 with the designated hitter kind of being the one spot he played with, whether it was a righty or a lefty or if Austin Barnes was catching, that kind of thing. With a right-hander on the mound tomorrow, I have a couple questions I'll ask you. Left field. Do you consider putting Jock Peterson in left field? Oh, basically, I'll put it this way. There's 5 guys that are fighting for 2 or 3 positions. You've got Jock Peterson, AJ Pollock, who could both play left field, Rios or Turner, who could play third base / DH, and then you've got Will Smith, who would be expected to be the DH with Austin Barnes catching. From my perspective, Jock's got to play. He hit so well tonight. He has to be in the lineup. So does he take the designated hitter spot away from a guy like Rios? Does he take left field away from from AJ Pollock?
I'm going to go with something here that you're probably not expecting. So I'm under the impression that Barnes is going to catch Kershaw, which we have no reason to assume otherwise. So Barnes is going to be behind the plate. I'm still keeping Will Smith in the lineup at DH. I like the way he's been swinging the bat. Maybe he didn't get a whole lot of hits tonight, but I still like Will Smith in the lineup. So he's my DH. I'm going Jock in left field against the righty. I mean, he had 4 hits tonight. There's just zero way he can't be in the lineup tomorrow. And then I'm going to get a little unconventional with the last couple spots. I'm going to move Max Muncy over to second base. I'm going to give Chris Taylor a day off. He was the only guy to not get a hit tonight. He hasn't, swung the bat incredibly well this postseason. I'm just going to give him a night off. Nothing crazy. It's 7 games in 7 days. Maybe he comes into the game later, as a platoon type with Jock, or maybe Pollock does. And then I'm playing Edwin Rios at first base. That's another guy who, as far as I'm concerned, when a righty is on the mound, he needs to be in the lineup. He homered in his first at-bat today. I just like the at-bats he gives. So that's where I'm going there. So for me, it's Taylor's out of the lineup for a night, and Pollock's out of the lineup again.
Now, let me ask. I mean, people love Rios. I love Rios. He hit a home run tonight. And then he was 0 for 5. I mean, is it possible that we're looking at that home run and forgetting the fact that this is a guy who's been injured and a guy who, I mean, he did hit a home run. I'm not trying to discount that, but we're talking about pulling a guy like Chris Taylor out of the lineup in order to make room for a guy who went 1 for 6 tonight.
Yeah, that's fair, but at the same time, if the one's a home run, then you're doing your part as far as I'm concerned, and especially in this ballpark where there's not typically a lot of home runs hit, one swing of the bat could change a lot of things, and Rios just gives you that. That power where one swing could literally change the whole game. So I like having him in there. I know he went 1 for 6 tonight, but the one swing was a pretty one, and he crushed that thing. So with a righty on the mound, I like him in the lineup. Obviously, if it's a lefty, that's a completely different story for me. I'm not saying Edwin Rios should be in the lineup every single game. Like, once Fried's back on the mound, he'll be out of the lineup, but I'll give him another chance tonight after hitting a home run, or tomorrow, I should say, after hitting the home run tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I see that. I hadn't thought about moving Muncy over, and as soon as you started going down that road, it's like, okay, I see where this is at. Personally, for me, I like Rios a lot. I just don't think he gets another spot. He was 0 for 3 against Milwaukee, so he's 1 for 9 in the postseason with a walk. And more importantly, I think the Dodgers just value defense way too much to say we're going to take out Chris Taylor, who's a much better second baseman than Max Muncy, and also leave Muncy at first, where he's a much better defensive option than Edwin Rios is. I think the question actually comes down to what you do with the designated hitter. Is it Will Smith? Is it AJ Pollock, who actually got the night off tonight? So does AJ Pollock get back in? He is a guy who struggled in the postseason, but is that a guy who's had a great regular season? So I tend to lean toward, I wonder if AJ Pollock is actually the designated hitter tomorrow, or maybe it's Jock who's the designated hitter. But if I had to guess, I think it's one of those two guys, with Will Smith actually getting the night off. Again, another guy, he was 1 for 6. He roped the ball in the first, but he struggled in this series. He keeps coming up in big spots. So, I mean, none of these are bad decisions. All of these are guys you want to get in. There's just too many of them. Because of the night off tonight, I think you leave Pollock in the lineup. You get Pollock in the lineup. I think you stay defense with Taylor and Muncy at second and first. But that's where I would go. So I'd be curious to hear from people in the comments. I know we have a lot of people that like Rios, but where do you see all these people sort of fitting in? Let us know there.
Yeah, and real quick, let me just add on to what you were saying. Just the fact that we're talking about them having too many guys to fill out a lineup, that's a great problem to have. Like the last two nights, we were like, no one could hit. Like, what are the Dodgers going to do? So now here we are one night later, and we're talking about them having 10 or 11 guys worthy of being in the lineup. That's a great problem to have. So I like having this discussion more than the ones we were having the last couple of nights.
One other question we got in the chat, I think it's a pretty fair one based on the conversation we had last night. We talked about how much the Dodger offense benefited from getting late runs. Obviously, the Braves do add 2 runs in the 9th. The question is, hey, is that something to be concerned about, that the Braves did get a little momentum? You always feel that way. My perspective, this game was far enough out of reach that I wouldn't count it, but also it's worth noting, those are sort of bottom of the lineup guys. Not to say those guys don't matter, but last night it was Corey Seager and Max Muncy and Cody Bellinger getting things going. For this, it's like, okay, Camargo hit a double, who probably won't even play tomorrow, some of those types of things. So from my perspective, not a big deal. Again, I think the game was so out of hand that who cares? Any difference of opinion there for you?
No, I agree 100%. And it's hard. You can't really compare the two scenarios because, last night's game wasn't that close. But, the Dodgers actually made a game out of it. And those last couple of bats were actually kind of important. The Braves really didn't take a single important at-bat this whole game, frankly. Like, they were out of it by the time Ronald Acuna stepped in the box for the first at-bat at the bottom of the first. So I don't think those two situations are comparable. And like you said, for the Dodgers, it was their main guys getting going. And for the Braves, it was like Camargo and a couple bench guys. So, I don't think those situations are comparable.
Ernesto says Taylor. He wants Taylor at second base, Jock in left field, Pollock at DH. So he's agreeing with me. Chase and Aguilar has Rios in, so he's agreeing with you. Definitely, there's options. And again, the beautiful part is whoever is not in there, Jock at some point is probably going to get a lefty, so you're going to get a pinch hitting opportunity for a guy like Jock there. So you figure whoever we're not talking about, whether it's Will Smith or whether it's Edwin Rios or excuse me, it wouldn't be Rios, but a guy like Will Smith or AJ Pollock would probably be the pinch hitter in that case. So, I mean, I love Will Smith. It's hard for me to say sit him, but I could see how you play all that out. So let's look ahead then, sort of tomorrow and beyond. Last night, we're sitting here. We're both sort of talking ourselves into a little bit of optimism, talking ourselves into, hey, you know what? They got the bats going in the 7th. They got the bats going in the 9th. We think tomorrow's going to be a good day. All those hopes have been realized. 15 runs. How much has your perspective on this series changed in the last 5 hours?
I mean, a little bit, but at the same time, it's kind of played out how we thought it would. Like, no, obviously we didn't expect the Dodgers to lose the first 2 games, but even when we were previewing the series, we said the Braves have 2 solid starters in Max Fried and Ian Anderson, and then it just falls off a cliff after that. So the guy they threw today, Kyle Wright, had like an ERA above 6 and 24 walks in 30 innings in the regular season. So that's not a guy like, he pitched well against the Marlins, but that's not a guy that is a reliable arm in the postseason. And then same with the guy they're throwing tomorrow. And then game 5, we don't even know who's starting for the Braves. So we've kind of said all along that as long as the Dodgers are taking good at bats and building pitch counts and getting into the bullpen, then as the series goes on, it's going to go more and more in the Dodgers' favor. And that's how we kind of saw it play out tonight. And hopefully we see it play out like that in games 4 and 5 as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to overstate it, but I'm beginning to wonder, is tomorrow night the most important game of this series? And the reason I say that is because the Braves took a body blow tonight. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. The Dodgers are riding as high as possible. The Braves have to have seeds of doubt saying we stole 2, but this is the best team in baseball, and they look like the best team in baseball. You wake up tomorrow, you realize Clayton Kershaw is probably pitching for the Dodgers. The Braves are pitching a guy, Bryce Wilson, who they can't possibly have all that much confidence in. And it makes me wonder if the Dodgers can, obviously they're not going to score 11 runs in the first, but if they can repeat a little bit and get to Wilson, let's say Wilson pitches less than 3 innings, the Braves have to go back into their bullpen for 6+ tomorrow, knowing that a bullpen game exists in Game 5. I mean, it's sort of the domino effect. I would say the Braves did pretty well to stay unscathed from a bullpen perspective, just blowing out the elbows of Grant Dayton and Inoa and pitching them unbelievable amounts of innings. And, you know, they did their job. I couldn't believe they didn't pitch position players. Well, that's another conversation. But the Dodgers didn't really get to the bullpen as much as they probably would have hoped to, sitting there in the first inning. And so I think tomorrow's the chance, because they used their mop-up guys today. If you can get 4 runs in 3 innings off of Wilson tomorrow and make them get into the bullpen, and all of a sudden they've got to start throwing their best arms and using them in the 5th inning, 6th inning, 7th inning, especially in a game that they're potentially losing. If you can get a good start in Kershaw, all that starts to snowball for me. Then all of a sudden it's 2-2. The Dodgers have the advantage in Game 5, and you're looking ahead to 6 and 7, saying they got Buehler and they've got, you know, Gonsolin, Urias, May, whoever you want in Game 7. Things look pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as far as Dayton and Inoa go, I tweeted from the Dodger Blue account that someone on the Braves better buy them a nice dinner tonight, because they absolutely saved their bullpen and sacrificed themselves in the process. Like, I think Dayton's season high for pitch count was like 40, and he threw 60-something tonight. Inoa threw 90-something. So those guys just absolutely wore it. So credit to them. You know, hopefully they don't get injured, because you would hate to see that. But yeah, we've been talking about this domino effect all along, that as the series goes on, that's what the Dodgers do. They just wear down pitching staffs. And at the same time, for the first time really this series, they were aggressive tonight. Yeah. So I'm looking for them to be aggressive again tomorrow, early in counts. And like you said, if they could get Wilson out of the game early tomorrow, then the Braves don't really have a choice to use some of their best, you know, relief guys, because they use their mop-up guys tonight. So if we could see maybe not a repeat performance tomorrow where they score 15 runs, but if they could score some early runs and put some pressure on that Braves bullpen, then I think the Dodgers are in a really good spot.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you know, we're talking about, hey, a bunch of guys had the night off, Melanson, so to speak, or Wilson, guys like that had the night off tonight, but you say, okay, well, if they pitch tomorrow, 3 games in 4 days, it's not like you can pitch 2 and then take 1 break and then pitch another 2. So this stuff's going to start building, and that's where the advantage is for the Dodgers. Tonight's game was big, not because even if they lost, I wouldn't have said this series was absolutely a wrap, but it just keeps them within distance, as if to say, the Braves, every game from here on out, are going to be in a worse position than the Dodgers. It doesn't mean they can't win. It just means the Dodgers have a slight advantage every single game. If they can go into those games and start picking off wins, and all of a sudden it's 2-2 and they have the advantage in 5 and the advantage in 6, then you're just playing the odds and things look good for the Dodgers. So I think the Dodgers are in a good spot. Obviously, the bats are turned around, and it's one of those things where to see a performance like this almost makes you forget about and not worry about the 2 games they lost prior. Because it's like, you know what? We're looking at, it's now a 4-game series. The Dodgers need to win 3 out of 4. If their bats are anything close to what they were yesterday, a couple bullpen arms that they needed look good in Jansen and Baez tonight, it starts to make you think, all right, we're seeing the team that we knew we needed to see in order for the Dodgers to win this. And so I know for me, I've had a massive shift in confidence, not because I didn't expect this, but because now that I've seen it, I believe that it's possible. So my outlook on the series has changed. So I'll just turn to you. You predicted Dodgers in 5 or Dodgers in 6?
Yeah, 5.
You said Dodgers in 5. Now here we are, 2-1. Obviously, the least they can do it in is 6. Do you like the Dodgers in 6? Do you like the Dodgers in 7? Or do you still have questions about whether or not the Dodgers can finish this off?
Yeah, I think, like you said, it's going to depend on how tomorrow's game goes. If the Dodgers come out swinging the bats well again tomorrow and win another game to make it 2-2, then I think it'll be Dodgers in 6. That puts a ton of pressure on the Braves in Game 5. Do you go straight bullpen game with Josh Tomlin starting, which is not a recipe for success? Or do you bring back Max Fried on short rest, which that means then you have to bring back Ian Anderson on short rest the next day? So that's not the best spot to be in either, frankly. So I think tomorrow's a big game, like you said. And if the Dodgers come out and win that one, then I do think they'll run the table and win it in 6.
Yeah, and Memo Pena agrees with you. If they can get to Fried on short rest in Game 5, that pushes a lot of buttons, because then they're compromising their best pitcher. And if the Dodgers can get to a compromised pitcher, we've got that. So one other question here, Grayson will take from YouTube. He asks, Game 5, is Dustin May the starter in that game for you?
Yeah, I mean, if Kershaw pitches tomorrow, then it's May in Game 5. He threw an inning or whatever it was in Game 1, so that means he'd be on 3 days rest. But it's not the same as making a start and pitching on 3 days rest. Like throwing an inning out of the bullpen, getting 3 full days of rest, and then making a start, he'd still be able to go, 5 or 6 innings, depending on how efficient he is. So yeah, absolutely. May would be the Game 5 guy. I don't see a reason to bring back Buehler on short rest or go with a straight bullpen game. So yeah, May's my guy there.
Yeah, and I mean, especially if you can get like 6 innings out of Kershaw tomorrow, and you go into May's start with a rested bullpen, that changes things. Because then May, you could say, hey, go throw 101 and just give us 2, maybe 3 innings, and we'll pick you up from there. They could go bullpen game, of course. You could see where a guy like Gratterall or somebody like that comes out to pitch the first inning, and then Dustin May comes from there so that he doesn't have to face the 3 times, Freeman and Acuna 3 times. The Dodgers will get creative, but I do think depending on what happens tomorrow, I mean, if Kershaw goes short tomorrow, then they might look to May and say, we actually need 5 innings out of you, which changes things a little. So anyways, that's down the road. We'll see how that all plays out. Obviously, I think the Dodgers, the recipe for success is Kershaw tomorrow. If it's a close game, you'll see a guy like Victor Gonzalez. You'll see a guy like Gratterall, and then you'll probably see Trinan. Maybe it seems like a guy that they have high leverage innings for, as bad as he was in Game 1. Who knows? Jansen, the way he looked, maybe he gets a shot at some late inning stuff. But it feels like those are kind of the 4. I mean, for whatever reason, Roberts probably includes Joe Kelly in that category. None of us really understand why. But that seems to be the recipe, I would imagine, right? Is if you can get 6 from Kershaw, maybe some combination of Gonzalez, Gratterall, and then either Trinan or Jansen in some order.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Jake McGee could maybe be in that mix as well. So, yeah, those are the guys you're looking at. Those are the guys who have been their best relief pitchers this season. So I'm not expecting to see the guys we saw tonight other than maybe Kenley.
Yeah. Well, let's end it the way we always end it, with the prediction. Both of us were far too humble to get anywhere close to the score. Right. If either of us had said 15-3 last night, I think I might have guessed 3 runs scored. So I think I get a half a point on that one. But somebody will have to go check the tape. But for you, Kershaw, let's assume Kershaw's on the mound. We've done this before. We made Game 2 predictions, assuming he was pitching Game 2. But we'll reboot it here. Assuming Kershaw pitches for the Dodgers, what do you like for a score?
Yeah, I mean, if Kershaw pitches, I'm going to assume he's healthy. So I think he'll get through 6 solid innings, allowing a run or 2, which I'm pretty sure that's what I had predicted before Game 2. So, and I'm also expecting the Dodgers to have a good day offensively. The starter they're facing, Wilson, is kind of similar to Wright, only has a handful of major league starts under his belt. So I'm going to go 8-2 Dodgers. I think I said 7-2 last night, so I'll give them a little more credit and go 8-2 tonight.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the number in my head was 7-2. I might have guessed 7. I might have guessed 7 runs every night. But that's what I've got. I'm with you. Number. Yeah, I think the offense comes out and has no issues. I think they get a couple clutch hits. I mean, let's not forget, even in games 1 and 2, they had given themselves opportunities to score. They just couldn't hit with 2 outs and runners in scoring position. So even if they can create 4 or 5 of those opportunities and get 2 or 3 hits, maybe a home run here or there, I think that changes the complexion of the series. And I think Kershaw is good. I think the bullpen is good. And so I like 7-2. We've got Think Blue 11 on YouTube is saying that Dave has confirmed Kershaw tomorrow. I'm not sure if that's possible. It seemed like they were going to wait till tomorrow, but I definitely think that's the expectation. Grayson's got Dodgers 6-2, 7 innings, 6 Ks, no earned for Kershaw. Ernesto's got 7 innings, 11 Ks, 2 hits. I mean, if the Dodgers get 7 innings, 11 Ks, and 2 hits with no runs from Kershaw, nice. That'll go a long way towards helping the old Clayton Kershaw in the playoffs narrative. So, yeah. You and I both like the Dodgers to win tomorrow, and I can't remember if I got it out of you. Do you have the Dodgers winning the series? Did you say 6 or 7? I'll put you on the spot. You said it depends on tomorrow, but you predicted a win tomorrow. So, assuming they win tomorrow, what do you got?
Yeah, if they win tomorrow, I'm going Dodgers in 6.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I find it hard to believe they're going to win 4 straight. So I'll say Dodgers in 7. Hopefully, I'm just as wrong as I was on the sweep, and the Dodgers can win it in 6.
I mean, if they win 4 straight, that you could kind of call that.
I basically would have been right the whole time, which is kind of the most important thing here. So, well, that'll do it for us tonight. The Dodgers win 15-3. We appreciate you joining us. I know this game was over about 4 hours ago, so we appreciate all you folks watching live with us and enjoying the conversation. But a big win for the Dodgers. They come back, they get a win. 2-1. They still trail in the NLCS, but Clayton Kershaw expected to be on the mound tomorrow with a fully rested bullpen and some bats that are ready to hit. So that'll do it for us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll be back live again. The first pitch tomorrow is just after 5, so it's a little normal for us West Coast folks. This show will probably be closer to 8:30 or 9 or 10 if something like this happens again tomorrow. But we'll see you here. As always, Dodger Blue 1958. Subscribe and check out our YouTube channel. We'll have all the post-game coverage. I'm sure there'll be some great press conferences and quotes from guys, so check those out. DodgerBlue.com. We'll have all the info, and then follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Dodger Blue 1958 as well. That'll do it for us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.